Chloe was the architect of my world. Not in a grand, metaphorical sense, but in a real, tangible way. She picked the shade of gray for our bedroom walls, a color she called misty morning, which she swore was calming. She chose the ridiculous, oversized coffee mugs we used every day, the ones that barely fit in the dishwasher. She even orchestrated my social life, reminding me to call my mom and organizing our weekly game nights with my best friend Mark. For 10 years, I lived inside the beautiful, comfortable life she'd built for us, and I never once thought to question the blueprints. Our love story was the kind people wrote novels about. We were high school sweethearts who found our way back to each other in our mid-20s. She was a kindergarten teacher, a literal ray of sunshine who smelled faintly of crayons and cinnamon. I was a software engineer, a creature of logic and code who found her chaotic, creative energy both baffling and intoxicating. We were the perfect balance. She pulled me out of my shell. I grounded her when her dreams threatened to float away. Mark, my best friend since we were kids building forts in his backyard, was the third pillar of our little universe. He was the best man at our wedding, the godfather to our hypothetical children, the one who'd show up with beer and pizza after I'd had a bad day at work. The three of us were inseparable, a perfect triangle of friendship and love. I was the luckiest man alive. I was also the most blissfully ignorant. The first crack in the foundation was almost invisible. It started with her phone. Chloe, who used to leave her phone lying around for hours, suddenly had it attached to her hip. It was always face down on the nightstand, on the kitchen counter, on the arm of the sofa. When I asked her about it, she just laughed it off. Just got sucked into this new teacher forum online, honey. So much drama. It made sense. She loved her job. I let it go. Then came the late-night staff meetings. As a teacher, late nights were rare for her, usually confined to a few parent-teacher conference weeks a year. But suddenly they were happening every Tuesday. Principal Thompson is really cracking down on curriculum planning, she'd say, kissing me goodbye, her eyes sparkling with an energy I hadn't seen in a while. She'd come home smelling of a new perfume, something musky and expensive, not her usual light floral scent. Oh, one of the other teachers, Sarah, was letting me try hers. Isn't it divine? She'd explain before I could even ask. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? This was Chloe, the woman who cried during commercials about abandoned puppies. Mark started acting strangely too. He began canceling our weekly game nights. First, it was a work deadline. Understandable. Then it was a headache. Then he was just not feeling it. Our easy banter became stilted. He stopped looking me in the eye, offering clipped responses to my questions about his life.
I figured he was depressed or stressed. I tried to talk to him about it. Everything okay, man? You seem off. He'd just clap me on the shoulder with a little too much force. Just busy, Liam. You know how it is. Don't worry about me. I felt a pang of guilt, thinking I'd been so wrapped up in my own happy world that I'd neglected my best friend. I made a mental note to do better, to be there for him. The real alarm bell, the one I couldn't ignore, rang on our 10th anniversary. I had planned a surprise weekend getaway to the cabin where I'd proposed. But a week before, Chloe came home glowing, holding up a delicate, minimalist silver bracelet. It was beautiful, but it wasn't her. Chloe loved chunky, colorful, handmade jewelry. This was sleek, modern, and expensive. I bought myself an early anniversary present, she announced, her smile a little too wide. Do you like it? It's beautiful, Chloe, but it's not really your style, is it? I asked, trying to sound casual. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Well, I'm trying new things. A new decade, a new me, she chirped, her voice a little too high. She wore it every day after that, a constant gleaming reminder that something was off. My logical brain, the part of me that debugs code for a living, started compiling the errors. The phone, the late nights, the perfume, the bracelet, the distance from Mark, they were all isolated incidents, easily explained away on their own. But together they formed a pattern I couldn't unsee. Paranoia is a slow poison. It started with me checking her social media, something I'd never done before. Nothing. Her posts were all pictures of her students' artwork and our cat Mittens. It escalated to me waking up in the middle of the night, fighting the urge to pick up her phone, to violate her trust, our trust. I felt disgusting, like a stranger in my own home. I told myself I was crazy, that I was letting work stress get to me, that I was manufacturing a problem where none existed because our life was too perfect. I was on the verge of letting it all go, of forcing myself back into my blissful ignorance. And then I found the photo. It was an accident. I was cleaning up our shared cloud storage to free up space.
I navigated to a folder of old vacation photos and saw a subfolder I didn't recognize, titled Misc. Inside were a dozen random photos, a sunset, a picture of a menu, and one that made the air leave my lungs in a single silent gasp. It was a close-up shot of two hands clasped together on the gear shift of a car. One hand was Chloe's. I recognized her ring, the one I'd slid on her finger 10 years ago. The other was a man's hand, strong and familiar. On his wrist was the sleek silver bracelet, and on his forearm, just visible, was the distinctive faded tattoo of a compass rose, the same tattoo Mark got on a drunken dare during our college spring break trip. The world didn't crash down. It simply dissolved.
The misty morning walls of our bedroom seemed to recede into a fog. The oversized coffee mug in my hand felt alien. Everything Chloe had built, every memory, every shared laugh, was instantly recast in a sickening new light. The late-night meetings, Mark's sudden distance, the perfume. It wasn't another teacher's. It was hers, for him. The bracelet wasn't a gift to herself. It was a gift from him, my best friend and my wife. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat there in the quiet of my home office and went completely cold. The programmer in me took over. I needed data. I needed confirmation. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I downloaded the photo, printed it on a sheet of glossy paper, and slipped it into an envelope. My hands were perfectly steady. That night, Chloe came home from another late meeting. She kissed my cheek and told me she was exhausted. I played the part. I made her tea. I asked about her day. The lies flowed from her so easily, so naturally. It was breathtaking. All I could see was that photo, her hand in his. The next day, I texted Mark. "Hey man, I need a favor. Can you come over tomorrow night? I'm planning a little surprise for Chloe, and I could use your help setting up." His reply came almost instantly. "Sure thing, buddy. Anything for you guys. See you at 7. They made it so easy. The next evening, I came home early and waited. Mark arrived first, all smiles, carrying a 6-pack of my favorite beer. "Ready to get this party started?" he boomed, clapping my shoulder. The same shoulder he'd clapped when he told me not to worry. I just nodded, my mouth dry. Chloe walked in 10 minutes later. Her face lit up when she saw Mark. "Mark, what a surprise," she exclaimed, giving him a hug that lasted a beat too long. They stood there in the entryway, laughing about something, and they were so comfortable, so familiar. A perfect picture of deceit. "Actually," I said, my voice sounding distant, foreign, "the surprise is for both of you." I walked to the coffee table and picked up the envelope. I handed it to Chloe. Mark craned his neck to see. Her brow furrowed in confusion as she opened it and pulled out the photograph. I watched as the color drained from her face. I watched as her eyes darted from the photo to Mark, whose own jovial expression had frozen into a mask of pure panic. The silence in the room was a physical thing. It was heavy, suffocating. It was broken by Chloe, a tiny, pathetic whisper. "Liam." "I found it in the cloud," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. "The one place you forgot to hide." Mark started to stammer. "Liam, man, it's not. We can explain." "Can you?" I asked, finally looking him in the eye. "Can you explain my best friend buying my wife a bracelet and holding her? Can you explain the late nights? Can you explain why you've been lying to my face for months while you slept with my wife?" Chloe started to cry, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "It just happened, Liam." "We never meant to hurt you." That was the line. The classic, cowardly cliche that broke through my cold shock and let the agony in. "You didn't mean to hurt me?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You didn't mean to?" You two, my two favorite people, the two pillars of my entire life, have been systematically lying to me, betraying me in my own home, and you didn't mean to hurt me? That's so much worse. It means I didn't even factor in. I was just an obstacle in your way. I didn't stay to hear the rest. I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and left the life Chloe had built. I didn't look back at them standing frozen in my living room, the glossy photograph lying on the floor between them like a verdict. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and the hollow, echoing silence of a half-empty apartment. The hardest part wasn't losing my wife. It was the realization that the woman I married and the friend I cherished had never really existed,
They were ghosts, replaced by these two strangers who had prioritized their own selfish desires over a decade of love and loyalty. Months have passed. The divorce is final. I sold the house, the one with the misty morning walls. Sometimes I still find myself reaching for an oversized coffee mug that isn't there. The healing process is not a straight line. It's a jagged, ugly thing. But in the wreckage, I'm starting to find myself again. I'm learning to trust my own instincts, to be the architect of my own life. I never suspected her. Not really. Not until the truth hit me with the force of a wrecking ball, demolishing everything I thought was real, and forcing me, for the first time in a long time, to build something new from the rubble, all on my own.